Hi, and welcome to an explanation of our wiki creation on Year 3 Geography. So, teaching strategies and unit plan resources are covered, as well as information regarding curriculum materials and curriculum analysis. So, we'll start with a few analytical perspectives with land and water resources, settlement characteristics, climate change, and then we'll move on to neighbouring countries. So first off, I've provided in the resources aligned to content descriptions category on our wiki resources tab some readily available songs and interactive websites, also informative data collection tables, and some problem solving games as such directed at the appropriate age level. So some of the sites provided are actually for research propositions for the students, for the teachers as well, and also for actual games that can be practical in the lesson itself. So to start with, I've provided some information regarding, start with the settlement characteristics, and we go through some geographical locations, for example, Sandon Point in Wollongong, which is a place that I visited personally and have experienced the sustainable living conditions there. So as far as settlement characteristics is concerned, I spoke at length with George, who is an elder that lives on the Sandon Point Indigenous Embassy, and he provided me with multiple resources and stories regarding an elder who was found fossilized in that particular part of the sand region, just where the embassy is located in Wollongong. So another feature, the landscape there, which pertains to settlement characteristics, which has justified my reason for including the resources here on the wiki page, is because the sandbag housing was built there by Daniel Jones, who I met and who described the sandbag housing creation that I was in and viewed and experienced as a living condition while I was staying at the embassy. So the conservation management component is explored on the Coraji Tent Embassy site provided there in that particular resource category. And then it goes down further to provide the Wollongong New South Wales Government page, which has all kinds of details regarding the area surrounding Sandon Point Embassy and the sustainable and ecological settlement features that the government have been imposed in order to provide support for the people who are living in an ecologically friendly state down there. The first website, of course, describes the sociological and political climate surrounding issues to do with Sandon Point and the protection of the Indigenous heritage within that. So that particular group of sites are very key for illustrating to Year 3 and for Year 3 to explore the aspect of people from the past and people in the now and aspects of the climate change and how the landscape has changed and how living conditions have changed. All of that can be explored using those couple of resources there. So further down the list, there is another really handy page which can be inspirational for anybody who would like to take on their own school project to build an earth bag house or a sandbag house. So the third website down there is an example, just a news journal article about Port Hedland Primary School, where the students embarked on a sandbag housing project as well. So the further references down there are songs. So part of my activist program relating to how to employ any kind of geographical information that you may have collected about changes to the landscape or changes to settlement needs for the community as far as climate change is concerned. I have a song here available by an original artist approaching a friend of mine named Paul Spencer. His song is called Carbon Canaries, and a song about carbon emissions, so it's a way to incorporate musical ALA and the perspectives of how people actually view the landscape, which may be different to other political perspectives and perspectives of developers and stuff. So it's a valid way of exploring perspectives of the geography using actual interpretations through music and art. That's why I included Carbon Canaries by Paul Spencer, and the video actually shows some elderly residents of the local area who have an interest in maintaining a carbon-free environment and exploring the issues of rights, etc., and may even be inspirational for children to want to embark on any activist programs of their own. Further down, the government resource for environmentally sustainable homes and climate information is provided to explore the built-up metropolis area and how we, or those of us who are living in the metropolis, can adapt the living conditions, the modern site, the suburban site, to incorporate knowledge of change of land over time. Below that, another frontline action site for building the evaluation phase of the inquiry process. If you want to link to world views and link to practical ways to use the knowledge that students acquire in the inquiry process to be able to adapt it for actual real world conditions, this frontline action .org page, the very last resource there in the settlement characteristics and climate change category, is the frontline action on coal page for the Laird State Forest blockade, which was quite a long action plan designed to protect Laird State Forest and the extinction of the white box eucalypt, other bats and endangered species of the area were regarded in threat during a 150-day odd protest of frontline action living within the Laird State Forest to optimise possibilities to protect groundwater, cotton farms in the local area, and other interested parties currently geared towards preventing the implementation of another mining site from Whitehaven Coal, owned by China. And within that particular site, you can witness real life examples of the action that was put together and endured and committed to by a large component of the population up in Boggabri. Which brings me down to another song to connect to the musical KLA, further down into the embedded videos down right at the bottom of the wiki resources site. You can see a song which was written covering issues of the Laird State Forest and the catchment of the Namoy River, called Along the Road to Boggabri, which is an adaptation of Along the Road to Gundagai. This song goes through and explains changes to the land over time and the perspectives of those residents that living there and working there and farming there often see things from the farming perspective instead of the coal industry perspective. So we've explored that, and then further down go into a geographical maps section and representation section, which has the Australian curriculum codes below. And I've also included neighbouring countries in that particular category. So to start off, we had a look at the Scratch map making project, which is a technical term used for the ICT Scratch map making community, who put together a lovely program. This one particularly geared towards US residents. However, I put it in there as a template to provide an example for the use of interactive and programming based exercises that could easily be explored and navigated by an 8 to 9-year-old child in Year 3 in order to gain interactive experience using technology to create maps. We go down further to the database of interactive maps that are available today on the internet, which is a large proportion of interactive maps using the direct navigational systems and such that you generally find on sat navs. So that's commonly explored through technology. So I've included that there so that the children can go through on their computer time and do that. The abcnet.au Indigenous map there is an interactive map of the Indigenous countries, which if they could maybe compartmentalise that with an incursion of some kind about, say, for example, the Karaji country or something like that. An elder could come in and explain certain aspects of the site, and then this interactive Indigenous map be used within the classroom. There's another interactive map reading site with other learning experiences there, treks and trails. Below that, an Indonesian Sister Schools project. I've included it in order to experience neighbouring countries and gain a perspective of how others live. This also has an opportunity to create a sister school program for Year 3. Below that, an extension of that, Bougainville sponsoring electronic books for a school's website, which is quite easily used in any kinds of KLA integration programs. For example, you may want to integrate with a science program in order to create sellable items, like make water wheels and sell them in an inter-schools fete, or sell them have an incursion where the children set up a stall and create projects or producibles or sellables to be able to fundraise to donate to, for example, this Bougainville electronic books website, which would give the children a real-world opportunity to use their geographical insight and the social insight into the way our peers in other countries that neighbouring Australia live, and take an autonomous position in affecting real world issues. Below that, have some excursion sites may be usable in the local area, incorporating map reading and representation of walking tracks. So the second last one there is the walking track excursion map for Glenrock State Conservation Area, the local area here in Newcastle, which would be easily explored on an excursion. And also the site for the Blackbutt Reserve, and which has education opportunities, printables, etc. Excursion information for the map trail walk within the Blackbutt Reserve here in Neptune, Newcastle. Below that again, another small category dedicated to rail maps, how to use those. And back up to the top where we have the land and water resources category, I've provided a few websites pertaining to river systems, so water sources, are explored. The first one there is a song by a local Newcastle group called Nerds and Music. Wrote the song concerning the Murray-Darling River system. So the actual song is embedded down the bottom in the YouTube videos. If you scroll down to the bottom of the resources page in the wiki, you'll see the YouTube clip featuring Clark Gormley and his friend from Nerds and Music performing here at the local folk club. Oh, actually performing at the folk club in Hornsby, it looks by the backdrop, and singing a song about changes to the Murray-Darling River system over time and how back in their childhood the river looks quite different, and salinity and development, all of those issues are explored through lyrical content of that particular composition. So there's a performance of that there, and the Murray-Darling education page is provided down the bottom as well, just below that, as a way to explore any information that may be gained through listening of that song. The following page is the Save the Koala page, which is about loss of habitat to koalas and how it may or may not affect perceptions on the area, which would be very easily explored through in tandem with the excursion to Blackbutt Reserve, where they have animals and such there living in enclosed habitat, and this particular site combined with that would create an ability within any student to be able to see differences between the way koalas live naturally and the way they live in captivity, and create their own perception of what that means for geography and natural landscapes. I've included below that another resource on the global water issues as well, to be able to gain a larger perspective, a clearer clarity on what the actual water issues for the globe are concerning South America, as South America is or will be the water resource powerhouse for the future. We could use that potentially in the exploration phase, the extrapolation phase of the inquiry process about water issues. So below that there are some sustainable flora and fauna guides for the local region of Newcastle, which would be easily incorporated into a science integration unit. We could grow our own sustainable flora and use any kind of in-schools gardening program. Could use the Edible Gardens program or anything like that and create it makes you sustainable flora environment, and look at the local plants through the website here. Sustainable flora could be easily introduced into any geography program and integrated with the science KLA for that particular age group. Below that, Run the River game. So it's an interactive problem-solving game. So we're always looking at amount of water usage, integrate that with the science KLA as well for measurements of water, and tallying and data collection could be incorporated into a program, and this interactive problem-solving website might be useful after the data collection phase in order to have a look at how do we analyse water use, how do we use it in the real world, and how do we use our mathematical skills to make sure that the water we're using is responsible and ethical. So there's water cycle knowledge there, which is handy, and then the Australian Government Water Sources Information website provided as well to compare and contrast water use in our own region with water uses in other regions. That's the resources category.